Hi everyone, this video is going to focus on Section A questions for the GCSE exam. So what I've done is I've grabbed every Section A question I could find from all of the different papers, including a past paper that I found, and hopefully by going through all of these questions it'll give you a good idea of the kind of stuff that might come up in your real exam. So let's get started. So first question. So this is what a Section A will look like. Okay, so it's a mixture of single mark, multiple choice questions. So it's a really nice way to start the exam. Make sure you read the instructions really carefully about how to fill in the actual answers. So you can see right here, they're saying straight away that you need to make sure that you fill out things, you cross things through in a certain way. So make sure you do that correctly. So you need to do it like this. The correct method is to fill the little circle in rather than do like a tick or anything like that. So just be careful about that. So first question here is about cooperatives. So those of you that are maybe business students or something like that, you might have heard of this. Anyone maybe has jobs in like Waitrose or John Lewis. Those are a good example of a cooperative as well as the co-op. It's basically a business that is owned and managed by its workers. So those people share in the profit, they have a voice to make decisions. So in contrast to a business where you might have just some really big wigs at the top who earn all the money and take all the profits, this is actually owned and managed by the people that are employed there, right from the ground level. Okay. Second question, identify the source of renewable energy. Lovely question. So renewable means that it's replenished. It can be, once it's used, you can get it again. So we know that coal is non-renewable, it's finite. Hydroelectrical comes from water, the power of water. Natural gas is finite and oil is finite. So the answer is hydroelectrical. Right, question 3. Which one of the following is a feature of a product designed for maintenance? So if a product is designed for maintenance, it means it should be easy to open, easy to repair. So biodegradable materials, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with maintaining a product. That's to do with its when you get rid of it at the end of its life. Complex electronics would not help you with maintenance because it might make it harder to repair. Planned obsolescence is the opposite. It's making things that break easily or after a certain amount of time, so you have to replace them. So the answer is repairable components. Right, next one. Which one of the following is a biodegradable material? So you're looking for materials that have been that are natural, that come from natural sources. So acrylic is a thermoplastic that comes from oil. Nylon is also a type of thermoplastic that comes from oil and is often used for clothing. Polythene, again, a thermoplastic, comes from crude oil, but silk is made by silkworms. It's a natural source, so that is a biodegradable material. Next question. Identify the card or board. Now, don't get confused when it says board. When it says board, it means like cardboard. Okay, it doesn't mean manufactured boards, it means cardboard. So identify the card or board which is most suitable for packaging hot food. So straight away you're thinking, well, it needs to keep the heat in, or it needs to make sure that the food is not going to like absorb into the material. So duplex board is just card that has different effects on either side. So like a cereal box has like the shiny side and then the not shiny side. That's duplex board. So that's not the best one. Foam core board, that stuff is used for like architectural models, so that's not the best thing. Foil lined board, well, we know foil is a good insulator, it's going to keep things fresh. So before we go any further, that is the right answer, because solid whiteboard is used for really nice packaging, like your iPhone packaging. I'm trying to look around here to find you an example. So for example, this iPad, or what is this, MacBook Pro box here, this has been made using solid whiteboard. So it's like that posh packaging, the stuff that you like hold on to because it's really nice. That's what solid whiteboard is. You don't put food in it. Right, next set of questions then. A lamp. So here we go. This is getting tricky now. So this is electronics, okay, which can sometimes be a neglected area. but it's nothing that you can't really work out. So a lamp is designed to automatically switch on in dark conditions. What is the input in this system? So remember, all systems have an input. They have like a process in the middle, and then they have an output. Okay, so for a light to come on, it needs to sense something. That would be the input. So it's going to be a light sensor, because it's all to do with being dark conditions. So just to give you an idea, a microcontroller would be the process. That might be what actually turns the light on. A switch is a type of input, but that wouldn't be suitable for this condition. And a pressure sensor also is an input, but wouldn't make sense for this question. Okay, just realised I'm leaning really close to the camera. I'll go a bit further away. Okay, which of the following timbers is a softwood? Remember, there aren't that many softwoods. There's more hardwoods than there are softwoods. But ash is a hardwood, has really good resistance to shock, so used for things like baseball bats and tool handles. Beech is a hardwood, used for children's toys, breadboards, things like that. Mahogany is a really expensive hardwood, used for quite fine furniture and things like that. So pine is your answer. Pine is a softwood. Right, number 8. This is all about change in motion. So right away we are thinking about linear, oscillating, reciprocating, excuse my spelling, and there's another one as well, isn't there? Oh yeah, rotary. Okay, so those are the 4 that you need to be happy with. So on this one it's saying takes place, so what change in motion takes place in the mechanism in figure 1 when the crank handle is turned? So the crank handle is rotary, so it's going from a rotary motion. The cam here would also be rotary, but this cam, as it turns, may have sort of like an offset dowel, which means as it turns it gets higher, which would basically push this up and down. So that up and down motion is reciprocating. So it's going rotary to reciprocating. Okay. Which one of the following contributes to global warming? Very basic question. Could be science, could get it from geography, could get it from all sorts. So using renewable sources of energy, no. Using fossil fuels, duh. So that's the answer. Improving efficiency in manufacturing, no. Increasing the use of nuclear power generation. That's a little bit of a trick one there, because actually you kind of think that nuclear power is bad, but actually it's one of the cleanest and most efficient ways to generate power. It's just risky because of the contamination that can happen. Right, maths. Okay, these are easy, though this battery one does catch people out. So we're going to do the one on the left hand side is one of the easiest questions I've ever seen in a tech exam. So the designer needs to know the area of an A4 sheet of paper. Do I really need to talk about this? It's basically just finding the area of a rectangle. So it's 210 times 297, which is 62370. So they've even like given you the what you have to do. So just you've got a calculator, just type it into your calculator. There you go, an easy mark there. Now this one's interesting. This battery one, you may recognize this one. I did do it once in a mock, I think, or I may have done it for a different group. But there's a few things in the explanation that you need to pay attention to. So a smoke alarm needs either 4, that's not important, 1.5 volt alkaline batteries, or 5 rechargeable batteries. So it says complete table 1 to show the total cost to the customer of 5 battery changes or 5 recharges. Okay, then that's going to help them decide what's a better option. So the first calculation is pretty easy. All you've got to do is £2.45 times 5, because you are just basically buying these 5 times. So I'm just going to put that in my calculator quick. £2.45, £2.45 times 5, and we get £12.25. Okay, now the classic mistake that everyone made with this is that they realised that you had to do 5 recharges. Okay, so you do the 0.03 times 5, which is 0.15, But what lots of people didn't realise is that you have to pay the £17 to begin with. So lots of people put 0.15 here, which would be wrong. Okay, so the actual answer is £17.15. Okay, so read the questions really, really carefully. That's a simple question, but I've seen a lot of people get that wrong. Right, next one, question 12. This one is really annoying, and this is why I'm not a fan of AQA as an exam board, because Kevlar is a tiny little bit in the exam spec. It's like technical textiles. So Kevlar is kind of like polymer fibers that are woven together, and it's used for things like bulletproof vests. It's used in cut-proof gloves. It's got fantastic tensile strength and resistance to like impact and trying to be cut, basically. So this question is almost an A-level question, but it's asking you how the fibers are processed and arranged to give this material its unique properties. Well, what I would write for this is that Kevlar is woven together. So I would say something like Kevlar fibers are woven in alternating directions, which gives it its fantastic like tensile strength, which gives excellent, oh, excuse me there, excellent tensile strength and resistance to cutting. So that would get you the 2 marks. Let's hope nothing like that comes up, but that was a really, really hard question a couple of years ago. Right, next one. I like these ones. These ones are your bread and butter, really. You should be knowing these. So manufactured boards. Name the 3 manufactured boards that you need to know about. You've got chipboard, you've got MDF, and you've got our favourite in the department, plywood. Okay, so 2 properties of manufactured boards that make them really, really useful is they are available in large sheets. Okay, so in contrast to something like a piece of pine, you are obviously restricted by the size of the trunk of the tree, but with plywood, chipboard and MDF you can get massive, great big sheets, which makes it really good for things like construction, building, large pieces of furniture, flat pack furniture, all that sort of stuff. Okay, and the other property is in natural wood, what can sometimes happen if you had a chunk of pine like this, what can sometimes happen is because of the natural grain, it can actually bend and it can twist and warp. Okay, so manufactured boards don't do this. So they do not warp, they are stable. Okay, so that's a really useful property because it means that you're not going to have any flex or warping which could compromise the quality of the product. So they're quite easy to work with as well. Try and resist saying that they are cheap. Try and resist saying that they are inexpensive because they're not. They can be quite expensive. Plywood's actually a really expensive material. Pine is much cheaper or inexpensive. These 2 answers are much, much better. Okay. Right. Again, this is a nice question about just-in-time production. Explain 2 ways that just-in-time production can help manufacturers improve efficiency. Okay. So we know that just-in-time production is all about ordering stock, materials and components just when you need to use them. So something that you could say straight away would be there is no need for warehousing or storage of components. And what's good about that is it means that you are going to be, in terms of cost, that's going to be reduced because you don't need to pay for you know, like security, lighting, heating. So that's going to make the whole process more efficient. Okay, as well as that, to go back a little bit more onto the efficiency kind of thing, you are going to have all your materials available when you need them, like straight away. But the other thing that I would say is that you do not waste time making products that people don't need that then need to be stored. You respond to customer orders. So additional stock that could go out of date or could be obsolete after a certain amount of time, that doesn't happen. Okay, respond to a customer order, so additional stock is not produced, which could then not be sold, Okay, apologies for my handwriting, by the way, it's this stupid little pen. So there's no need for warehousing or storage of components, so you don't have to pay for security, lighting or heating. That means you can be more efficient in terms of costs. You can be more efficient because you respond to customer orders, so additional stock is not produced, which could then not be sold, and also it could go obsolete and it could go out of date. Okay, next questions. Okay, so this is a new section. So this is a new section, new exam, a new past paper. So let's start again with the multiple choice. So what type of renewable energy is sourced from plants? Well, solar is from the sun, tidal is from water, from the sea, and wind is wind. So it's biomass, because that is when plant materials are like burnt, produces heat, produces steam, turns a turbine, creates electricity. Right, planned obsolescence, question 2. Is it A, to be repairable, to have a short lifespan, to have replaceable sections, to take upgrades? Well, it's to have a short lifespan. Planned obsolescence, as we've just spoken about, reduces the length of time a product is on the market, or it can be used, so it's encouraging customers to buy more. So it's having a short lifespan. Right, question 3. I like to think that we would all realise that that's a switch, and it just switches things on and off. The one way that you can tell that is that this thing here, the 1 and the 0, it's actually binary, which I only learnt the other day, but it basically means like on, off, or one of the two. Computer science people, you can tell me I'm wrong, but it's a simple switch that just turns it on or off. With the others, for example, the temperature, you might expect to see something like a thermometer. So yeah, it's a switch to switch equipment on or off. Identify the smart material used to darken windows in bright sunlight. So smart materials react to external stimuli, could be light, could be water, could be heat. So aluminium foam doesn't respond to light. Photochromic pigment, so photo is the obvious one there, that means light, so that's the right answer. Shape memory alloy is the stuff that the metal wire that you can bend into a shape, and if you unbend it, you can heat it and it will return back to its original shape. It's really clever, it's got like a memory. And thermochromic is heat, isn't it? So we're looking for light, so photochromic pigment is the right answer there. Okay, question 5. This is a textiles question. So identify the textile fabric shown in figure 2. I like to think that we would be able to realise that this is a woven fabric because it's got that very obvious structure of them being like woven together. Knitted fabrics look kind of like little loops like this. Felted fabric, you wouldn't be able to see anything because it's all of the fibres are all mixed together. And bonded, it wouldn't have much of a structure either because it would be sort of glued together. So that's a woven fabric. Question 6, technology push. This describes when technology push describes when products are developed due to improvements in new materials, due to increased consumer demand, in response to customer feedback or consumer feedback, or with the user in mind. So it's technology here is the big clue. So that is this one, the top one. Consumer demand would be market pull. Okay, so don't get those confused. Question 7, which one of the following statements about industry is true? An increased use of robotics has led to a reduction in manual jobs. Well, that it probably is true. An increased use of robotics means more people need to be employed. That's not true. The latest production lines require more people who can use hand tools skillfully. No. The use of CAD and CAM in industry has led to less efficiency. Well, that's not right either, because it's led to more. So the top one is the correct answer. Right, which of the following is part of a kinetic pump storage system? Now, a kinetic pump storage system is what is used during peak times of demand when loads of people need electricity at the same time. So say you were all watching the final episode of Game of Thrones, it goes to the advert, everyone might jump up and make a cup of tea at the same time, or during half time at the World Cup or something like that. So I have done a video about this if you're not sure what this is, but basically a turbine is the right answer, because what happens is water is pumped up a hill, and then what happens is at a certain time it's released, so the water comes down, goes through a turbine, which helps to produce more electricity during that peak demand. Right, so this one is about mechanisms. So now name the identified component shown in figure 3. This one annoys me a little bit because you're probably looking for something like a belt, because it looks it's a bit unsure about which bit it's being kind of pointed at here, but it's not a cam. A cam looks a little bit like this with like a dowel going through it, or it might be a different shape. It's not a gear because that would have little spiky bits on. It's not a lever because that would have a pivot point. So it's a pulley. So sometimes you have like two sort of spindles on either side with a pulley belt in between. So that's a pulley. Right. A ductile material is commonly described as one that can be drawn into a long length, does not scratch easily, resists corrosion and oxidization, shatters under sudden impact. So I'm going to go through these ones. That's hardness, so when something doesn't scratch easily. This one is like corrosion resistant. This one is toughness. So this one at the top here, this is ductility. It means it can be drawn into a wire. I always like to think of a duck, so I'm sorry for the vegetarians in the group. Think of a duck that's had like its neck stretched. That's the way that I remember it. And yes, that is a duck with 4 legs, okay? So ductile can be drawn into a long length into a wire, stretch neck. Right, here we go. This one's relatively easy, but if you don't have an example in mind, you could struggle with it. Name an alloy. My favourite one to always go for is stainless steel. You could also do bronze. You could do brass. Those are 2 ones that you could do, but stainless steel is a really good one. This next question is explaining why metals are alloyed. Now, metals are alloyed to basically combine different properties of different materials. So they are alloyed to combine different properties or desirable properties. So for example, you might say, for example, e.g. Chromium is alloyed with steel, or you could just say stainless steel is alloyed to make it corrosion resistant. Make sure that you don't say things like metals are alloyed to make them hard or to make them strong, because that is a general statement that doesn't apply to all alloys. So it's usually to combine different properties or desirable properties, like to make them corrosion resistant, to make them better conductors, to make them more malleable or more ductile. So careful with that one, make sure that you've got an example. Okay, so next question. Composite materials such as foil and polymer line boards are used in food and drink packaging. So give one advantage and one disadvantage of using composite materials for packaging. So firstly, a composite material is 2 non-metallic materials joined together. So they're not metals and they are not chemically bonded. So they're either glued or mixed together or layered through lamination. So this is kind of laminated because the 2 are glued together back to back. So an advantage of this is it's going to keep the food inside quite fresh, and it's going to stop the liquid or food like absorbing into the surface of the packaging, absorbing into the packaging. I'm just going to kind of bullet point here. You would obviously need to write a little bit more. So keep the food fresh, stop it from spoiling, and obviously stop it absorbing into the packaging, which could cause it to be damaged and to weaken. So those are 2 points that I would put. Big disadvantage is that because they are glued together, they can't be easily recycled. So they can't be easily separated, which makes them really difficult to recycle. So because it's been joined together, that means quite often materials like this can go into landfill. So anything like this where packaging materials, they're not easy to separate, or anything that's not easy to separate, even things like plywood that has like a veneer of melamine formaldehyde on top, it's just not easy to recycle because it's difficult to separate it. So quite often it ends up in landfill. Right, another maths question here. This one is all about working out a percentage increase between these 2 numbers here. So this is the amount of recycling that was done of composite food and drink containers. So here it says that between 2010 and 2017, there was 32 billion tonnes in 2010, 46 billion tonnes in 2017. So firstly, bizarrely, you actually get a mark for saying there's a 14 billion difference. So always make sure you write down every step. Even if you don't know how to do the question, write down something because you will get marks for it. So what you would do is you can do 46 divided by 32. So what that gets you is it gets you 1.4375. Okay, so what that means is the answer is basically here. You can then times that to kind of get the right answer, but basically this means that it's 143 the amount, so the difference is the extra on top of the 100 is 43.75. It says, does it say to give it? You'd also get the mark if you did 43, if you rounded it up to 43.8%. There's different ways of doing it. I don't like that question very much, but I don't like percentages. It's something I can't do. So hopefully you know the method for that, but yeah, that's how much the increase is. Last question that I'm going to do in this part 1 of the section A questions is this one, a system diagram for an alarm. Complete the diagram by naming one component that could be used in each block. So we have an input, we have a process, we have an output. So the input is relatively easy. There's a few things that you can do here. So if you think about this in terms of an electrical circuit, the input is what triggers it. So it could be something like a switch, it could be a pressure sensor, it could be a light sensor, it could be a motion sensor. So something like that that's going to trigger what happens next in the system. The process block, that's the thing that actually processes what's happening. So here you want to write something like a microcontroller. That's what you need to write in that process. And then output can be lots of different things. It could be an LED, it could be a buzzer, it could be a speaker. There's loads of different things it could be, but that is what is kind of happening once the switch has been pressed. Right, that is all I'm going to do for part A, because this video is getting on for half an hour long and I think I've probably lost a few people. So I'm going to do a part B of these section A questions where I go through the last few. Right, hope that was useful. See you on the next video.